Chris and Chris Talk Movies.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris Ferry, and of course, this is my co-host.
Now we got to whisper it. My name is Chris Huddleston.
And today we are both very excited to be talking to you about a brand new movie. And we should say that we spoil these, so if you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to us talk about it. Come back after you've seen it. But the Disney Plus exclusive Werewolf by Night.
This Halloween, you can't escape the shock, the terror of Werewolf by Night.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
But one of you is a monster, masquerading as one of our own. I can't wait to find out what breed of evil you are. You wanna see this, darling?
Please don't do this. Death is coming for you!
Werewolf by Night.
Do you have a synopsis for us, Mr. Huddleston?
I do. So this one is directed by Michael, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Giacchino, and it stars Gael, García, Bernal, Laura Donnelly, and Harriet Sansom Harris. And the synopsis is: on a dark and somber night, a secret cabal of monster hunters emerge from the shadows and gather at the foreboding Bloodstone Temple following the death of their leader. In a strange and macabre memorial to the leader's life, the attendees are thrust into a mysterious and deadly competition for a powerful relic, a hunt that will ultimately bring them face to face with a dangerous monster.
Yeah.
All right. So they just says hit on October 7th on Disney Plus. So what did you think?
Well, let's start wide. It's an hour long, so it's not a full-length feature film. It's a sort of they have a new tag thing that they do, the Marvel like special presentation. And do you remember back when we were kids, there was like, if I can find it, I'll insert it. But it's like
They did an 80s TV kind of. I love that.
I got so excited when that happened.
Yeah.
And this, I think this very clearly is meant to kind of evoke that. It's modern looking. It's got a bunch of vertical stripes and stuff, but the production value is great. It's shot in black and white. It's interesting because is there source material? Is this like a graphic novel that they've adapted? It feels like
so
it.
Werewolf by Night was a comic, and the creature that there was a werewolf that was the Werewolf by Night, and also the creature that they're hunting is called Man Thing.
Yeah, I recognize Man Thing.
And I think I don't know which came first, but I always looked at him as the Marvel version of Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say Swamp, somebody, we grew up reading comics, so I feel like I'm not exactly an expert, but I read all this stuff. But somebody who's more of an expert can tell us which came first, if it was Swamp Thing or Man Thing. But I remember reading some comics with Man Thing in them. So yeah, this is all existing stuff. There's probably other characters in here that are from the Marvel lore that I didn't know who they were.
Yeah, I felt like that too. I think if I'd have known all of that, and I might have enjoyed it more. I felt at an hour, I felt a little bit like I was dropping into something already in progress. Like this was episode 5 of something that
Mhm.
we didn't have any time to get to know the lead character, the werewolf. Um, I sort of liked that they kept it short and sweet. It looked good. Um, I just, if I'm being completely honest, I found myself not caring that much.
Mhm.
Um, there's a female protagonist that turns out to be the daughter, the sort of estranged daughter of the deceased guy. That is is the sort of female lead to the werewolf's male lead. And I think that we're supposed to care about her almost as soon as we meet her. There's not much time.
Mhm.
You have an hour and the thing hits the ground running and they do a setup and then it sort of concludes at the end. It's a little bit like Battle Royale. I mean, all these monster hunters show up and it turns out they're going to have to fight each other and a monster man thing to get this magic gem, the Bloodstone. So you have a sense that it's just going to be, like 10 people enter, one person leaves kind of thing. And that's what it is. In an hour, it just clips right along, gets right to it. I don't, I just, I didn't particularly care,
Mhm.
but you liked it.
I liked it. So I would say that probably the two strengths for this for me were I loved the black and white. The cinematography is outstanding. And I love black and white movies. We get uh, modern black and white movies here and there. The new Netflix film about Marilyn Monroe, which I haven't watched, is black and white. We covered The Lighthouse on this show, which is black and white.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, black and white works especially well for horror. So I would love to see a couple of big, black and white horror films per year. So I like that. The other thing that I liked is for people who have listened to this podcast regularly, I feel like I'm a broken record with this, but I'm very much in the Marvel fatigue phase where, I've criticized Marvel for doing the same things over and over again. So I really like the fact that they did something very different. This is very much an homage to Universal monster films, the 40s, 30s and 40s, I guess. So it was refreshing to me to have something that wasn't so much of the Marvel stuff is just you're setting up something for down the road, or it's part of some big storyline, and maybe they're setting up something down the road. I don't know. But I like that it was this kind of a self-contained story, and it's not even an hour. It's 53 or 55 minutes or something like that. So I would hope that this is successful enough. I think it would be cool if Marvel would do a Halloween short every October, because I feel like there's enough,
Got source material.
Yeah, you've got source material. And I mean, Marvel even did Dracula comics, back in the 70s. So you have enough, characters that you could, even if you just did a Doctor Strange, just sort of short. I don't know, just refreshing to me that it wasn't this giant thing that was, setting up the next 5 films or whatever.
Right.
There's not a whole lot to it. It's very basic, but it felt they did a really good job, and to me, of capturing that feel of something from the 1940s.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't hate it,
Mm-hmm.
I just it could have been a mood thing. Maybe I just wasn't feeling in the mood for it as I watched it that night, but it didn't get its hooks in me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that the actors aren't good. The actors are good. I just
All
didn't.
of the production values with it are really,
Yeah.
I felt top notch.
Yeah. I just didn't get invested in the characters. And for me, that's kind of a non-starter at the end of the day.
Mhm.
I mean, the production values, that's the same thing with the Rings of Power. Like I watched the
Did
first
you ever watch
episode.
any more of that? Because I was just reading today
No,
where
although somebody else was telling me
they
that
had
they
the
watched
8th
it all the way
episode,
through.
and
Yeah.
people have been telling me like they really like it. So
I do. I kind of want to go back because I want to see. I'm interested in the performance of the actor who plays Sauron. But
Mhm.
for watching the first episode, it doesn't look like the production values aren't the primary problem with that. All of which is just to say, good production value does not an interesting experience on screen for me make.
Pardon my ignorance. So in the, because I watched the movies, but I've read a little bit of one of the books, but I'm not an expert by any means. So in the Peter Jackson movies, Sauron is that just the big eye thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sauron is a person in this, or what?
Yeah, I mean, again, I haven't read the source material, which is exhaustive, which Tolkien wrote later.
So they do kind of a backstory on Sauron?
Yeah, and it
Okay.
follows, Galadriel, played by Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
So the female lead in this is Galadriel as a younger elf.
And okay.
And I don't remember how long ago. I don't know if it's 1,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago. I guess it's 3,000 years ago. But Sauron had, had a sort of a more powerful evil, like a Sith Lord above him or whatever. And in this, I think he's taken the form of an elf. I think he shows up, and again, I haven't watched it.
Okay.
That he sort of is working against them from within, and I guess at the end it all comes to a head and he reveals himself. I don't know if this ends in the battle of that we see at the beginning of the Tolkien movies that Peter Jackson made, or I don't know. I haven't watched it, but it was Tom Seymour I was talking to the other day, and he's like, I've been watching it, and it kind of got its hooks in me eventually. So I don't know, maybe I'll go back and have another look.
In the source material, do they present Sauron did Tolkien present Sauron as anything other than the big eye thing?
No. In the books, in the 3 Lord of the Rings books that he wrote, no.
Because that's one of those things where I
mean, that's the whole point, is he's trying to he did this rig with the rings, right? He gave these rings of power to the sort of leaders of the world at the time. 3 to the elf lords, and I don't know, 7 to the dwarves or something like that, and 9 to the men. But in secret, he made this one ring of power for himself, to which all of those other rings were sort of bound, that would allow him to kind of enslave them. And Isildur, in the fight what we see at the beginning of that movie, kind of inadvertently chops his fingers off and separates Sauron from the ring. He has poured so much of himself and his power into this object that when he becomes separated from the ring, he kind of goes, but he's not destroyed. He's just, his corporeal form is destroyed, and then the ring kind of goes missing. And where we pick that story up, he's the essence of Sauron that has manifested itself in this kind of tower of Orthanc that is the giant flaming eye. Is literally and metaphorically looking for the ring because he wants to reunite with the ring. If he can reunite with the ring, he can reassume corporeal form and pick up where he left off, basically. It hasn't kept him from raising armies and sort of corrupting the mind of Saruman, who is previously a good guy and a powerful wizard. And yeah, we got a little far afield from.
No, that's fine.
But
I
so
mean,
this is supposed to be like, oh, these characters you loved in the original thing. Like, here's how they all started when they were. It's a huge prequel thing. And it does have source material, but that stuff gets very. I mean, if the Lord of the Rings isn't arch enough for you.
Mhm.
I don't remember how to pronounce this. Simulacron or Similarion.
Similarian, is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Something like that. Is the history of, Middle Earth and the other lands of this universe, this world he created that go way back, way, way back. And it gets pretty labyrinthine and pretty.
Because that's one of my big pet peeves with studios now. I don't have a problem with remakes if they're done well. I don't have a problem with reboots or prequels or sequels or any of that stuff. But on the other hand, the studios just seem obsessed with telling backstories of everything, you
Right.
know? And there are instances where, especially with villains, you just say, this character is evil. And if
Right.
you try to explain it,
Right.
it takes a lot of the power away from it,
Right.
you know?
Or if, like with the movie Joker, which I think is, as a standalone movie, is very interesting and very well done as an origin character in a realistic world.
Mhm.
In a world where you never have to see the Batman manifested. You're like, how could we imagine this character actually coming to be in the real world? And I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know that. I think they're going to try and do it, but
no, have we talked about that at all? It's
they are
going to
gonna do it?
happen,
Okay.
and Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn.
Okay.
And the thing is, it's
They
the
got
same
Joaquin Phoenix back to do that.
Joaquin Phoenix back, the same director, the same writer. So I
Are they
trust that.
bringing Batman? Is Bruce Wayne going to
They
be?
haven't said anything about Batman, but it's
I mean,
going
the
to
only
be.
way I think that could work is if you don't introduce the character of Batman. I mean, sure, let him find some sidekick, but
It's the same production team, and I believe in them, so it maybe can be good. But they have said that, I mean, it's Lady Gaga is confirmed as Harley Quinn, and it's going to be either at the very least there's going to be musical elements to it if it's not just a musical. So, and I like the idea of that. I mean, it just sounds crazy enough that it might work.
Yeah, that's actually interesting.
And the original movie was so good that, if they brought in a different team, then I would say, yeah, I don't know about that.
And I know that people had problems with that first movie, but I think if you'd
because it's a remake of Taxi Driver, and all that. But I thought it was pretty brilliant. I mean, it's a great film in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you had pitched me that movie on paper, I'd have been like, I don't think it can be done. And they did pull it off. I think in very large part to Joaquin Phoenix's performance.
Oh yeah. He's fantastic. And that's one of those things where I like what, DC keeps, I think they have a new CEO now or whatever. And it seems as if they keep trying to ape what Marvel has done, which I think is the wrong way to go. Right. Just do one-off movies.
Well, they've just kind of proven they can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not necessarily the wrong way to go, but you guys just keep doing face plants trying to emulate it. So just skip that.
And some of them are going to be bad. And that's the thing with comics you have all different kind of genres of comics. And they do a million different versions of Batman and the Joker and all that in the comics, and just do that. It doesn't have to all tie together. you can have standalone things and be, and that made $1 billion. I mean, I think basically at this point you could just put the Joker on anything and it's going to make money because people want to see that character.
Yeah.
But
we know from the Jared Leto iteration of it, and it's not that Jared Leto is a bad actor, but that was just a singularly unwatchable depiction of the Joker. It was
right. Yeah.
It was everything wrong. It was stupid. It was offensive. It was gross. It was right. And you just think, man.
But with this Joker sequel, that it's the same people coming back. I mean, I kind of have fingers crossed. At the very least, I think it's going to be really weird,
It's like a musical thing, and there's dance. He loves Joaquin Phoenix is a dancer, loves to dance, loves to express himself through dance. I think that might actually be really interesting if it's largely sort of inside their insane fantasy mind a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That might be the way you make a movie like that.
But like you've said, I don't know how you have, and maybe they're, going to do the kind of anti-Batman film, but I don't know how you tie Batman into that.
It's such I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine anyone being able to do better with that concept than Christopher Nolan did.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of like, no, it's the real world, but there's a dude who dresses up like a bat and has all these gadgets,
Well, I'd argue that the Batman, did you watch the Batman?
I did. I
thought they did a really good job.
And I liked that movie. But Batman was the least plausible part of that movie to me. I liked that they made the police hate him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he'd walk into the room and the cops would be infuriated. This guy's a vigilante. He dresses up like a bat. And I thought that rang true. But it didn't ring so true that I'm like, oh, but it still makes sense that a guy dresses up as a bat. I'm like, Batman doesn't make any sense if he's not a comic book character. And I think Nolan did as close to a kind of realistic take on what Batman would look like in a non-comic book world. Right?
Mm-hmm.
A world where there isn't a Superman and a Wonder Woman and an Aquaman and a Green Lantern, right? It's like, well, what if there really was a billionaire that did this? Like, what would that look like? And I feel like Christopher Nolan,
he would be an insane person.
Got about as close as you can get, right? But Batman isn't insane. So the emo Batman, I thought it looked really good and I thought it was a really interesting movie, but I never bought Batman in it. You know what I mean?
I kind of felt it was the best kind of mix of the sort of Nolan and the Tim Burton kind of Batmans, with the sort of realistic, but also a kind of noir, vibe to it.
I like the vibe. I like the muscle car Batmobile.
The muscle car Batmobile.
I liked almost everything in it. I like that the Penguin was just a mobster, with the nickname. And I like that the Riddler was just a serial killer, who took on a persona like the Zodiac killer. This dude that dresses like a bat. Like if he was the Batman and he was a vigilante and just put on like a black, even if he had some sort of a cape or something and he didn't dress like a bat, then that was just it was all smoke and mirrors. And that was just, even if he left like a calling card and he was sort of a crazy serial killer vigilante himself, a la the Punisher, just spray painted a skull on his Kevlar thing. Maybe, but nope, this dude had a bat cave and a bat suit. And
think about
it. In the world
it.
of this, you're kind of like, what?
If you think about it, in real life, it would be Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. Like they would be Batman. Could you imagine either of those guys being Batman?
But the cops had the truest reaction. They see the commissioner in a crime scene with a dude dressed as a bat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
What the hell is this?
What is he doing here?
Yeah.
Right? This is get him out of here. Well, this guy's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. It's like you see him fighting people in the subway, and you're like, all right, well, yeah, that would flip them out because it is cuckoo. But this is also a guy that wears that suit, like you wear the Halloween suit out in public to
No one would take
legit
that
people.
seriously.
Nobody would take it seriously. Nobody would
No.
take it seriously. And you wouldn't allow him, if you had him in a room full of cops, you would arrest him.
Mhm. Yeah.
He has committed crimes, you know.
He's a vigilante.
Yeah. He's one of the good guys, but still.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where that movie broke down for me, was in that was hyper realism. And I'm just like, in that reality, I don't believe there's a dude that dresses like a bat and doesn't. I just don't believe it.
So we're so far aflung
I
from
know.
the movie that we're watching. Have you watched anything else recently?
No. I mean, I never. It's funny you asked me this, and I never remember anything that I've seen. And then we quit recording, and I go, oh, I totally watched. I watched the end of She-Hulk.
Oh, I haven't watched a second of that.
I would.
So did you like how it wrapped up?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
But I like Tatiana Maslany, who is the lead in it.
Because it's just kind of light, right?
Very,
it's like a sitcom.
very, very light, and she breaks the fourth wall like Deadpool does all the time.
So would you say that? Speaking of have we talked about Deadpool?
No.
With Wolverine?
No.
We haven't talked about that?
No.
I don't know if you know about that or not. So Ryan Reynolds he's great on social media.
He got, did he get Hugh Jackman?
Yeah. So I thought I sent that to you. So he did a video where it's like, he's like, I'm trying to come up with ideas for Deadpool. And it's like him in the Deadpool costume. And he's like working on a typewriter, and he's like on the toilet and all this stuff. And he's like, I can't come up with any good ideas. And then finally just him, it's supposed to be like in his house. And Hugh Jackman he's like sitting on his couch, and Hugh Jackman walks behind him and goes up the stairs. He's like, hey, Hugh, do you want to be in the next Deadpool? And he's like, yeah, sure. And that's the video. So he's going to be in Deadpool 3.
Okay.
Which is great. I mean,
I think those movies are funny.
He retired and everything, but so now there are videos of Hugh Jackman like working out, and I saw a really funny tweet from somebody, and they said, can you just leave Hugh Jackman alone? Like, he's gonna have to just eat chicken and broccoli and work out. It's like, just let the guy retire. But I think it'll be awesome for him to come back. And so they've done another video of like them like getting ready for it and stuff. So yeah, that I think will be pretty awesome.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't. Work has been really busy. I haven't spent a lot of time. I had the film festival thing that I did. So
and that went well, right?
Yeah, that went well. All local. Well, there was 5 films I showed. One of them was from the UK. Otherwise, they were all local, and I had 3 of the filmmakers there to talk about it. And I really
were they all from the previous festival in the spring?
Yeah,
or did you have
this was sort of best of. This was sort of best of the horror screening that sold out in May. But on the Sunday before Halloween this year, October 30th, I'm doing another one at that same bar, New City Brewery. That is 4 new short horror films that weren't a part of the festival.
Oh, cool.
They're really intense. You would really dig it. Maybe you and I can organize a screening where I stream some of them for you, because
that would be awesome. Yeah,
one of them is about half an hour, and the other ones are all shorter. But there's one that's 10 minutes long called No Signature Required. That is like, I think it's just so great.
I love short horror stuff.
Yeah, and there's one called Last Train that's only 3 minutes long, and it doesn't need, it's just very straightforward, but it's really good. Really good. So I've got all of those filmmakers coming to that one, and we're going to have a good talk back about that too.
Oh, cool. Well, that'll be
Yeah,
fun.
I mean the big one, the girl in the basement is 30 minutes long, and I didn't want to include that in the festival because it was just a whole different, horror has many different facets, the genre
Mhm.
of horror. And some of them were funny and some of them were a little disturbing and some of them were a bit of everything. But there wasn't anything in that screening that was like leave a mark on you scary.
Mhm.
And Girl in the Basement, it isn't so much that it's scary. It's just really upsetting, really,
Oh.
really upsetting and grisly. And I
Mhm.
just thought, this is like a different animal. I can't just smurf that one in there with all this other stuff.
Mhm.
But now I'm glad that I'm finally getting around to showing it to the public. And
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, it's gonna be good. I wish if I could clap my hands and have you be here with me, I would do it.
Yeah, if I could teleport or something, it would be
They're gonna
perfect.
invent that
But
technology the day we are officially too old to use it.
we're like gonna day before
Yeah.
we die. or
Yeah,
something.
they'll go, they'll say, but nobody over 80. And you're like, I just turned 80.
If you're 80, you like automatically break a hip or something. If you
Yeah. That's
um
gonna happen.
I watched one new thing that I was a little bit disappointed on Netflix. I think it hit last week. It's called The Midnight Club. Um, this is one of these things where I never read any of these because I think they were geared towards more girls. But were you ever familiar with any of the Christopher Pike books? Did you ever read any of those? Or
No.
I think they were always like a notch or two above the Goosebumps books, like a little more adult than those, but like sort of YA before YA even existed. So this one's called The Midnight Club, and I was kind of excited about it because I thought it was going to be an anthology, which is not what it turns out to be. It's about this girl who she's this teenage girl and everything's going well for her, and then she goes to a party, she's drinking and she passes out, and it turns out she has leukemia. And she goes to this home, a hospice for other kids who are sick, and they meet in the basement like at midnight after all the people who work there are asleep, and they tell ghost stories. But I watched the first episode, and it was basically like 50 minutes of stuff about sick kids and like 5 minutes of ghost stories. I thought it was going to be kind of like
Sure.
did you ever watch Are You Afraid of the Dark?
No.
So Are You Afraid of the Dark was a Nickelodeon kind of anthology where kids they get together around a campfire and tell scary stories. And so like I say, I thought it was going to be an anthology, but it seems like it's not. It's more about these kids, these sick kids, and it's kind of more sort of like a drama or something. So, but in a week or two, I know I sent you the trailer for, I think it's called Cabinet of Curiosities, the Guillermo del Toro.
Looks scary.
Yeah. Anthology. So I love anthology. So I'm excited for that. And it's a bunch of different,
Yeah.
I think he's producing it. It's a bunch of different big directors that, he's gotten together to direct, like 1 hour.
That trailer looks really scary.
Yeah. So, and anything that Guillermo del Toro is involved in, I'm interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really interesting vision on that guy.
So let's circle back to
Werewolf
by Night. So would you recommend this?
I mean, I don't want to say no, because I think if it's your cup of tea and you think it looks interesting, you'll probably find it so. But I think it looked good, and it's not like I wish I had that hour of my life back, but I guess at the end of the day, I felt kind of meh.
It is funny because when I sent you the trailer for it and you were like, that's kind of weird for Disney,
The trailer looks a lot edgier than I think the actual thing ended up feeling to me.
But even then, I don't know that this would be something for the whole family. Could parents watch this with their little kid? Yeah, it's pretty violent. I mean, there's people getting killed in this.
It's a little cartoon violence, but still, somebody gets shot with a crossbow, and doesn't somebody's arm get chopped off? And
Yeah, which felt very Star Wars to me, the
yeah,
original Star Wars.
yeah,
So it might be a little too intense for kids. Like I say, I liked it. I liked the black and white Universal Monsters aspect of it, and just I was kind of happy for Marvel to do something different, because I have never gotten around to watching is the final Endgame is the final Avengers movie, right?
yeah.
And I was on vacation and just randomly didn't have any Netflix or anything like that. And on cable, I caught some of Endgame, and I was just kind of like, this just seems very CGI, and all that. So to see something, the man thing, you could tell was a CGI creation, but the rest of it felt, they built some nice sets and everything for this. So it was a little refreshing to me, where it was just not the same Marvel thing over again,
Yeah, I do. I'm not going to contradict that. I think I noted all that, and I agree with all that, and I just didn't interest me watching
it was very slight. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to it. It just felt like a one-off comic issue.
Yeah, and the action sequences are not so, it's not Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. The action sequences are not so compelling in and of themselves that, like, if you don't care about the characters, then they don't stand up on their own, those.
And these are all characters that we, average audiences, unless you are very into all the comic lore, the average audience doesn't know who any of these people are.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of where I was with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hate on it, but
yeah. Another one you and I have talked about, just kind of texted back and forth. So neither of us have seen any of Andor.
That's true. Although I've heard a lot of people talking about it. I will probably get around to checking that out. I think I'm just having a little fatigue with all of these extended universe. Like, they keep cranking it out for the audience that they perceive as gobbling it up and can't get enough of it. And I mean, I assume that audience exists, or they wouldn't keep throwing money at expanding their various universes. But I don't really count myself among that audience at the moment.
Yeah. A lot of what I've seen from people saying they love Andor is they're saying they love it because it's unlike any other Star Wars thing. And I'll probably sound a little bit hypocritical where I'm saying that I want different stuff with Marvel, but I don't know that I want different Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
The things that I
mean, it's literally
Disney,
the same characters of Rogue One, right? So, I mean, isn't it like Rogue One?
Yeah. But since Disney has taken over, the stuff that I have really enjoyed is all the nods to what came before,
Right.
which, The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda are new characters, but they also feel very much, they're like Baby Yoda is similar to Yoda, and The Mandalorian is similar to Boba Fett.
Right.
So I don't know that I want different stuff with Star Wars,
Right. Yeah, I mean, and then there's a certain point at which you're like, well, I'm 50. I'm not 6 anymore. And but I mean, there was a period where Jim Carrey was making movie after movie, and I was a huge fan of Jim Carrey, and I just got to the point where I got tired of seeing Jim Carrey, which is not the same thing as being like, this latest movie is not good. I'm just like, I think I've got a little Jim Carrey fatigue at a certain point. So I feel like I have a little Star Wars fatigue, and I have a little Marvel fatigue.
For sure. Yeah.
And, I'm not, if they're like a new chapter of the thing you've never heard about, I'm kind of like,
So yeah, I just kind of feel like you pick and choose. Like did you ever finish Moon Knight?
No.
Yeah, I didn't either. I
dislike it. I just It never really sunk its hooks in me.
And I loved Moon Knight as a character in the comics. So I was kind of excited for that. But I was also, there were rumors of Daniel Radcliffe playing Moon Knight, and I think I would have liked that better.
Yeah, that would have
Did we
been.
ever talk about the Weird Al movie? Have we talked about that?
No, but that looks great.
Yeah,
Looks like a
that
lot of fun.
I think we should do that for the show because I think that's right around Christmas time.
Okay,
I think we should do that because
that
that's
does look like a lot of fun.
I'm gonna watch that for sure.
Oh, Weird Al Yankovic.
And that's one of the things I love with Daniel Radcliffe, where it's like he's made so much money that he can just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and
You
he's
know?
good.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a one-trick pony. Like he
Did
likes.
you see Switch Army Man?
No, I didn't, but I heard a lot about
you should watch that. That's a good
Yeah.
movie.
it. Yeah, and I think he likes to do kind of weird off the wall stuff, and he's carved in it. You know, it's not like he did one or two of those projects that tanked, and that was it for his career. He still has a thriving career doing, and he's good in these weird off the wall things. So
Did you see the one? I forget what it was called, where he had the guns fused to his hands. Did you see that one?
no.
Oh, I'll have to look that up to see what that was. That was pretty good.
No, I'm talking and I'm realizing maybe I haven't seen much of his other work, but
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say. Let's call this relatively early.
Sure. Yeah.
Chris and Chris Talk Movies at gmail.com. That's our handle. We're on the socials. Please like and subscribe. That's good for us. And leave us a comment. Ask us a question. Suggest something we should do on the show. I think for next episode, we're going to talk about Star Crash, 70s Star Wars knockoff that I only recently became aware of. So I think that'll be kind of interesting. You can check that out. I think that's available on free streaming services.
I watched it on Tubi.
Yeah. So join us for that one. And I guess unless you have anything that you would like to add.
No, I think that's it.
Then we will talk to you next week.